Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. Today I've got some really good news today, and some bad news, but not necessarily our bad news, meaning Americans' bad news. First thing I wanted to talk about was Vanderstock v. Garland. So if you hadn't heard, Friday, the ATF was summarily dealt with by a court, a lower Supreme Court, where they totally vacated the receiver rule. Now, if you don't know what that is, there was a case, Vanderstock versus Garland, where people like the Polymer 80 guys and a couple other receiver manufacturers, or 80% receiver manufacturers, took a case to court, and they won. And there's some language in that court case, in that decision, in the opinion put out by the justices, that is very important, because it basically chides and tells the ATF that you cannot do what you're trying to do. You don't have the power to do what you're trying to do, and you need to fix said problem. Now, what that does is that sets up the FPC, or the FPC case, specifically the firearms pistol brace stuff that FPC brought up, which is Mock v. Garland, that if they're going to be able to use this as case precedent to say, hey, in this other case, you were not allowed to do this same type of rule. Because with the receivers, the 80% receivers, what they did is the same type of thing they did with the pistol brace rule, they did with the bump stock ban, is this was done by executive fiat through the ATF. Now, we actually have a case law that is on the books in our favor that leans very heavily against them basically redefining a part of any gun as a receiver. And this is a good thing. Now, what is interesting, and I would say bad, is this isn't being covered in the news too much. They're still on the affirmative action wagon. That was overturned also. So affirmative action to get into schools is no longer a thing. So that was dealt with by the Supreme Court outright. Now, that's two big wins in my opinion. But the one that I'm more focused on, to believe it or not, even being quote-unquote a person of color, is that receiver rule. The receiver rule to me means more because it means they can't arbitrarily define a part of a gun. So if you don't know why this is important, this case was leaning, had this case stayed for Garland and for the president, this would have allowed them to rule upper receivers for AR-15s as firearms, which means you would have had to gone through an NCIC background check to get them. They would no longer be able to be ordered online. So, minor victory there. Or big victory there, actually. Something else to be aware of, like I said, that isn't being covered in the news, is the stuff that's going on in France. If you are total noob to the news, and you don't understand or don't see what's going on in France, or haven't seen what's going on in France, basically it makes our Ferguson and George Floyd riots look like a cherry bomb. These guys are car bombing. These guys are using saws on the street, and I mean saws in the M249 machine gun. France has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, and they're still showing people running around with AKs and full automatic saws on the streets of Paris right now. There's even pictures going around of people shooting what looks like some sort of sniper rifle, or honestly it looked to me like a pellet gun, but it actually had a round, where they're shooting down into crowds from the top of buildings. And these are the rioters doing this. Now, why should you care about what's happening in France? Well, France was one of two countries in the EU that kept the EU, the European Union, rolling. If it wasn't for Germany and France, you wouldn't have the EU, basically. Okay? So what that repercussion could happen is there could be economic repercussions from these states falling, basically. France being one of the financiers of the European Union, Germany being the financier and manufacturing hub in the European Union, you're going to see economic repercussions from what's happening in France bubble over into Germany, which will eventually hit us. Now, this shouldn't have been unexpected. It's kind of a little unexpected to me that it's in France. Now, the riots that are going on there are supposedly over a shooting of a illegal immigrant or a illegal in France that was shot by a policeman. This doesn't seem to be the case. If you're watching all this stuff, this seems kind of like the Benghazi stuff, that they blamed it on a video, and then it turned into way more than just about a video. The same thing's going on in France. Now, for the rest of us, we are in MAGA month now. If you don't know what MAGA month is, last month was Pride, right? So this month is actually going to be MAGA month. Everybody should be sporting the American flag, red, white, and blue. We're about to celebrate our Independence Day tomorrow, a day brought about by people with firearms that were seditious. So I hope you get to enjoy the fruits of being an American, because America, F yeah. And for once, we won a big case. This is one of those ones. This isn't an injunction. This is a total reversal of the receiver rule that the ATF had put out. And if this wins, or it has won, and the language put into this sets us up very well for the pistol brace rule and everything else that the ATF has tried to do. Don't forget who put us in this place. This was done by President Trump. And I know Biden is the one that put the pistol brace rule into effect, but Trump gave them the avenue with the bump stock ban to do exactly what the hell that they've done with the pistol braces and what they tried to do with 80% receivers. Now, that may be an unpopular opinion amongst many of my listeners, but that this is the sad fact, is that you need to be very aware of where politicians stand on the 2A, because if you're not, it will bite you every time, and it never, ever goes away. We have to fight tooth and nail to get these cases overturned, and when you do get overturned, we have to continue that fight forward. Anytime we allow someone to do something because it's of that warm, fuzzy feeling that happens at the time, we're enabling them to screw us later on. That is basically what I wanted to cover with that. There will not be an episode tomorrow. Like, share, subscribe, be great.